Hi everyone, this is Sarah, the Healthy Home Economist, and in this video lesson I'm going to show you how to make fermented Orangina. And Orangina, or orange soda, is a favorite beverage in our society. When I was growing up, I loved Orange Crush. And of course I don't drink it anymore because it's made with all manner of crazy ingredients, including GMO sugar, genetically modified sugar, which it was not when I was a child. So you want to stay away from conventional orange soda. But the great news is you can make a very tasty Orangina-like drink at home with plenty of enzymes and nutrition to enjoy and that your family's going to love. The key ingredient you need is fresh orange juice, and I would not recommend making this recipe with processed orange juice from the store. And the reason for that is because processed orange juice comes from a very highly intensive factory setting. I went to school, in elementary school, that was very, very close to an orange juice factory. And I know very well what goes on in those types of factories. The caustic chemicals that are used to extract every drop of juice from the oranges, the residue of those caustic chemicals are going to end up in the processed juice. And you really want to stay away from processed juice. Even if it's organic, it's going to be devoid of enzymes, and in some cases, if you're trying to ferment something that's dead, there's no enzymes in it, then it's likely that the fermentation process won't even take it. It will fail. And it's not going to taste as good as if you made it with fresh orange juice. So I would recommend using fresh orange juice. If you can, do it seasonally. I'm making this in the winter time, which is where I live. I can get oranges quite easily in season. And if you can't get them in season, try to get them from a small market that gets them not too far away. You just get a bag of fresh oranges and go ahead and juice them. You're going to need a dozen oranges to make this recipe of regular size. So if your oranges are quite small, you may need one or two more than 12. If your oranges are quite large, you're going to need just maybe a few less than 12. But on average, you're shooting for a quart of fresh orange juice. And this is a half-a-gallon mason jar here. You can see I've already juiced these oranges, and I've gotten just about, this is the last orange worth of juice, a quart of orange juice. So that's what you're going to need there. Then you're going to fill up the rest of the mason jar with filtered water, but you're going to take care to leave an inch or two at the top. Then you're going to take organic orange extract, and you're going to take a teaspoon of that and add that. Actually, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons because I like it really orangey. I like the flavor to be quite strong. And because you diluted the orange juice with some water, you want to add back a little orange flavor. And you might ask, well, why are you adding water in the first place? Well, the reason is if you try to ferment orange juice just straight, there's a lot of sugar, of fructose, in the orange juice, and it's just going to ferment too fast, and it may just not work as well as if you dilute it with a little bit of water and add a little bit of orange extract. That does seem to work a little bit better for you. You're also going to need a little bit of salt. The Nourishing Traditions recipe version of this calls for a couple of teaspoons of salt. I found that's too salty for me, so I only add about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then you're going to need fresh liquid whey, which is the clear liquid that is on the top of a cup of plain yogurt. If you want to know how to obtain that, I've got a video on how to obtain this liquid whey from a cup of yogurt from the store. I have a video on that. I also have a video on how to get this from clabbered raw milk, if you have raw milk in your area. So either of those videos will teach you how to get this. You cannot substitute powdered whey, because powdered whey, again, is highly processed, doesn't have any enzymes in it, and is not going to add the probiotic element that you're going to need to ferment this fresh orange juice into Orangina. So you get a 1/4 cup of fresh liquid whey and pour that in. And that is basically it. Isn't that simple? You're just going to stir it up. And then you're going to add your lid. and you're going to leave this half a gallon of Orangina on the counter for a couple of days. And that's going to allow the probiotics in the whey to interact with the enzymes and all of the wonderful nutrition in the fresh orange juice and ferment it into a slightly effervescent, slightly bubbly Orangina. Then you can refrigerate it, and after a day or two, you're going to find that it takes on a slightly banana flavor, kind of an orange banana flavor. I think that's from the liquid whey interacting with the orange flavor. Now, you can just drink it as is. Once you've refrigerated, it gets nice and cold, you can have that instead of orange juice, processed orange juice for your breakfast. That would be a great substitution right there. If you like it really bubbly, you can add a little bit of seltzer water to it to get it more bubbly, like a soda. Or if you want to, you can take this and you can actually bottle the fermented Orangina once it's fermented on the counter for a couple of days. I actually have a video on how to bottle your homemade sodas, so your homemade fermented drinks, to add an additional level of effervescence to them. So check that out. I will put the links to these related videos in the description section of this video lesson so that you can easily click over and check them out. This is Sarah, the Healthy Home Economist. Try Orangina. You're going to love it. If you want a little bit more salt, play around with it. See what level of flavors you like. If you want a little bit more salt to it, a little bit less orange extract, you can try that. But I think what I've showed you today will appeal to most people and will be a great substitute for you instead of orange soda and processed orange juice in your home. We'll see you next time.